Thank you. Welcome back. I'm glad there's no hangry people in the room, so got lunch done. My name is Matt Ryerson. I'm President and CEO at the United Way of Greater Knoxville. This is our project director, Tiffany Mensch, and our project consultant, Richard Consoli. So we're honored to be here today to present to you and share in this exciting, and Commissioner, I think you used the word revolutionary process for the state of Tennessee. So thank you, guys. There are 4 key takeaways we want to leave you with today in regards to our proposal. Number 1, what we are proposing is a whole family approach with walk-along mentoring. Number 2, this is an innovative but proven model to get families to self-sufficiency. Number 3, we are proposing allocating $15 million to supporting families to cross the bridge over the benefits cliff. And number 4, we have the capacity to deliver it. We've done it before, and we're anxious to get the opportunity to do it again. On this slide, we have a built-in video. You can certainly watch that on your own time. There's a link. It is our core partners introducing themselves to you and talking a bit about their capacity, but I'll just quickly share with you that we have a diverse, broad-based partnership with years of experience facilitating, administering, and being granted federal, state, and TANF dollars. In fact, most recently, the United Way of Greater Knoxville helped facilitate $25 million in a Tennessee Community Cares grant in partnership with the department here at DHS. This is our value proposition and our vision for this work. We are implementing an innovative care coordination system for East Tennessee families with the goals of reducing poverty, increasing economic opportunity pathways, and enhancing social supports using a relational and comprehensive evidence-based approach. Here's a number of the issues and barriers so many of our families are confronted with every day. We're going to talk about some of those later in the presentations, but there's 2 systemic issues that we really want to focus on this slide. Number 1, a disconnected process. The reality is we have a range of fantastic nonprofits all over the state, certainly in our region, that are doing great work independent of one another, and we intend to help break down those barriers. Number 2, the benefits cliff. You know about it. You've heard a lot about it. These families that so often just become stable, get their feet under them, only to have those subsidies and those benefits and that rug pulled out from under them and falling back into that safety net and never truly finding self-sufficiency. The population to be served is East Tennessee families who meet Tennessee's low-income eligibility criteria, but what we're really excited about is the footprint this initiative will cover. It'll certainly launch and kick off in Knox County, but quickly scale up to include Anderson, Blount, Claiborne, Jefferson, Union, Granger, and Sevier County. We're really excited about that footprint because it represents urban, suburban, and rural communities and really touches a lot of families with very different issues, but some of the same systemic problems. This planning process, and congratulations to this committee requiring this planning process, because this planning process has been extraordinary for us in our community. We really committed to the idea of a family-focused and family-led process. We had conversations and focus groups with over 225 families talking about their concerns and fears and their hopes and dreams about what our community and their lives could look like. We took surveys amongst a lot of our partners, and ultimately that information informed what we have designed for you today. So what was it that we heard from the participants of the program? I don't know what resources are available. Where are the hidden gems? The system doesn't make any sense. They keep us needing them. They don't give you a chance to get on your feet. Sometimes you start with assistance as a stepping stone, but that's when the cliff effect comes in. When you start to be able to do a little better, the help is taken away. Social service programs are backed up, understaffed, and show uncompassionate attitudes, which makes it difficult to qualify for and receive services. And quite honestly, this last quote we heard from one of our participants is inspiring when we talk about our families here in Tennessee. Nobody wants a handout. We want to be self-sufficient. So the families in our planning process told us what they needed and what they wanted. That made our pilot unique because it addresses the whole system of service, not by creating another organization, but by unifying complementary services already provided by seasoned, stable, and successful nonprofits that serve diverse populations, neighborhoods, and communities. And it all starts with the family. And these families often get connected through a range of nonprofits, but these nonprofits are based all over these communities where those families are and where those relationships are established. With these eligible families, these nonprofits then begin the process here with this whole family assessment. That assessment will measure things like mental health issues, trauma experienced, and basic needs needed. The other thing I like about this whole family assessment really is two things. It's designed for the whole family. The reality is so often our services identify one person in the family and address them with a program or an issue. And we believe fundamentally that this has to be traveled with the entire family. Secondly, that assessment is a universal assessment shared across organizations in our community. So we're starting to talk the same language and therefore breaking down those silos. This leads us to the first innovation in this initiative. Right here, you come to the TCRN. This is a cloud-based tool called the Tennessee Community Resource Network. And this tool is an opportunity for them to invest in a real-time dashboard, technology supported, that allows data and information about the family to follow them from organization to organization, program to program. Therefore, breaking down some of those inefficiencies that the system has and has created. As a part of that network, they will also have a system navigator that'll ensure, number one, that the data is put into the system properly and can follow them. And then number two, that their basic needs are met so that they're stable. Once the family is in a state of stability, there will be a warm transfer. And this warm transfer goes to the second innovation in this project, and that is based in our mobility mentors. Now, the mobility mentors are based in the empath model. The empath model is economic mobility pathway model. It's an evidence-based coaching framework that these mobility mentors come out of. Now, these mobility mentors walk with the families. And we talk about technology and we lean on some of these case managers, but the reality, one of the challenges that we have in this right column in yellow with all those corresponding needs and issues that families are confronted with, for every one of those issues, there are multiples programs and nonprofit organizations that serve that issue. And this is where the system so often fails our families. They fall through that safety net and they're not served because the transition from program to program, from nonprofit to nonprofit is difficult, and these waters cannot be navigated easily. That mobility mentor walks with the family from program to ensure stability, consistency, and ultimately, with the support of TCRN, that data follows the family so they're not reapplying that information. And that data system is an existing system in our current health system in East Tennessee, expanding to include social services. Now, the third innovation in this project is in this yellow column. You see there are some corresponding percentages around each of those needs. Now, those percentages represent the amount of investment in each of those needs, but the investment isn't going to the traditional services. The reality is we believe many are programs doing excellent work with what they have on the programs and the people they meet. They're actually there to expand those services to include those that experience the benefits cliff. So often these families get to the point of stability and those subsidies and programs are pulled out from under them and the costs go up and they fall back. That investment, that innovation is the investment in overcoming, creating a bridge over the benefits cliff. Now we know from the research and the evidence-based programs that we're utilizing that journey can take 18 months. But that to us is the definition of temporary assistance to needy families if it takes 18 months for them to find self-sufficiency. So for our families, that's the finish line. They're done. But for our system, you'll see a feedback loop that is generated with partnerships with the University of Tennessee SWARPs, as well as 3Cube to do a number of things. Number one, fidelity monitoring. Anytime you have an evidence-based program, you got to ensure it's applied with consistency across all parts. So they're going to do fidelity monitoring as well as equity screening. Ongoing equity screening is an important part of this system. We believe, fundamentally, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of the system every step of the way. It's part of the DNA, and we got to ensure that it's part of our focus. This information then is fed back into our East Tennessee Collaborative Advisory Council, who pumps this information back into the system. So each one of our families is benefiting from the families that came before them. We believe this network, this system aligns perfectly with TANF, the 4 purposes of TANF, as well as the universal 2-gen outcomes, but specifically at number 1 there, helping to end the dependence of needy parents by promoting job preparation, work, and marriage. That dependency issue is really where we believe we can move the needle. This is our collaborative management slide. You see, and I hope you get out of this, this is a broad-based collaborative. Over 45 partners have been a part of this process. We've actually had well over 100 partners already commit and begin training on the empath model. We have a core team of very diverse partners that reach all corners of our community, as well as system partners that will execute on assessment, basic needs, and economic stability. Now, this is our logic model. That's a lot. Yeah, you're like, I can't even read this. I can't even read this. What I hope you get out of this slide is this is well thought out, well researched, and well planned. It's an excellent blueprint for success for this initiative. On the left, you'll see inputs and activities. Here in the middle, there's outputs. But what you really want to see, what we really want to talk about are outcomes. So in the short term, we have a number of outcomes, a couple that I'm going to highlight here, that as these families start this journey, 85% of families will know where to go to access services. 85% of families will have identified and begun working on self-sustainability goals. That means they're starting this journey on the right place. For the long term, 70% of families improve their overall economic stability. We believe this is a realistic outcome. 75% of families experience improved well-being. 80% fewer families in a pilot will experience the negative impacts of the dreaded benefits cliff. We're excited about this. We're thrilled about this. But it's this last one that we get really excited about. And that is 70% of fewer families will need TANF at the end of this journey. That's why you're here. That's why you're doing what you do. That's why we've made this proposal, is we want fewer people dependent on the services of our government. Real quickly, this is a budget. 2 items I want to highlight in a summary of this. You have it in the proposal. That big blue slice of pie represents over $15 million supporting our families. And another part of this is our indirect cost. It's a low 5.48%. And we're doing that because we have local investment into this initiative. Our sustainability plan. Number 1, this online system will be incorporated and be a part of business, therefore creating efficiencies and allowing programs to do more of their good work. Mobility mentors will be brought into those programs permanently and absorbed by the nonprofits. The empath model, that evidence-based model, will be adopted as a best practice for the way we do business, but this bottom red bullet is really key to this when we talk about the nuts and bolts. Combined savings to the public is almost $8,000 annually per family. That's what we're talking. But I want to take it a step further. A year and a half ago, United Way received a transformational, unrestricted gift in the amount of $10 million from noted philanthropist Mackenzie Scott. And we started a journey, a process, a planning process. How do we invest those funds back into our community to move people from dependency on the system to self-sufficiency? At the same time, we watched you all take that same journey. What do you do with TANF dollars? How do you invest that in the community, move people from dependency to self-sufficiency? And as we aligned those journeys, we got really excited about this opportunity. And here's my commitment to you. Your $25 million investment is not $25 million. Our United Way is investing our $10 million in systems work to align with this proposal. That makes this investment $35 million. As core partners, we want to thank you for this opportunity. You see a broad-based partnership here of a number of agencies, and I hope this slide screams to you capacity. Thanks for the opportunity. Commissioner, yes.
A couple of questions. The first is the mobility mentor, is that different than the system navigator?
Yes, great question.
Yes, it's definitely different. You could look at the system navigator as a level 1 support. When you think about you calling in for a computer service and someone says, hey, is your PC powered on? That's the level that they do, trying to meet basic needs. The mobility mentor is really the person that is going to be walking the family through this whole process, more like an advocate. And I want to give you just a really good example, because this is a true story that I've experienced over the past 9 months. I had a young man. I still have a young man. In fact, I just got a text from him. He was incarcerated for 7 years. And when he got out, his on-off girlfriend was pregnant with his second child. He needed a better job. He wanted to provide for them. And I got introduced to him through a pastor to be able to help him. And through my network, I was able to get him a much better job as an HVAC technician. And over this past 9 months that I've been working with him and meeting with him weekly and texting him and talking to him, I've come to understand that there's just a ton of barriers that this man has got to go through. This past week, he lost his wallet on his way down to a job in Mississippi. We just arranged to get him a brand new apartment. Now, how is he going to get his apartment lease signed without having an ID? Well, that's kind of where I came in, was able to contact the landlord. I had been working with her. She knew the relationship. She took care of it. That is what this is about. A mobility mentor is someone that walks alongside these people. And I really say, if I can do it as one person, this is on steroids with a mobility mentor. And the last thing I want to mention, too, this is not just a theory that we've got out there. This is an empath model that we're using that's based out of Boston. It's tried, true, and proven. When Matt gave you those statistics as to the numbers that we can achieve, those are real numbers. That's not figment of our imagination. Those will happen.
I feel like terms like self-sufficiency have been used so much as to almost become hackneyed. Please tell me what that means in the context of this.
So I think our layman's definition would be not having full reliance on the system, right? So we have so many families that for every aspect of their lives really are dependent on some type of subsidy or program to make sure they're whole. Now, we understand all of us probably at some time, either family have some dependence on some benefit or program, but not wholly. Most of us are able to manage and navigate those waters without that ongoing total assistance.
And then my last one is, what will be different in operation and delivery with this model than the current order?
Yeah. Do you want to get that?
I'd love to get that. So really, I think there's two things. When we talk about mobility mentors, we didn't really mention to you that those are going to be located within the core partners that we have. And really the reason why we did that is because we want them to be able to walk alongside these families in a much tighter relationship that most caseworkers work. But through that process, and really speaks to sustainability, over time, because we're gaining efficiencies, that we expect the caseworkers to adopt that. So that is very unique. When we look at a whole family approach and a two-generation look at a family, those kind of things and principles will really come into play. And then the other thing that we did mention was TCRN, the community resource network that we have. It's already out there. It's in the medical field. The ability to expand that and scale that up, very easy, and having a common database for resources is another unique factor.
I really loved seeing the words feedback loops in your slides. Having so many partners who are all delivering services, having the mentors be located within those partners, it can be really tough to make sure they're just on the same page with each other, that they're all delivering accurate information. Can you talk about how you're planning to address that?
Exactly. So the two companies that we talked about with Swarps and 3Cubed, being able to do that feedback, they are monitoring that process. They're also making sure that that training is consistent, and that's the beauty of United Way as well, is to bring an overseer of that along with the advisory council that we've got developed to look at that and make sure that we've got the best practices and that whatever assumptions that we came up with during the planning grant, we can refine that and do that very quickly.
I think because this model, as innovative as it is, it's proven, right? It's tested. And to make sure that we're following that program with fidelity is really key on all this. And having our program partners and our planning partners actually commit to it, and I think it was over 100 organizations, we brought Empath in and said, hey, we're interested in this. We are investing in this proposal, but we're looking at this model as a community. And the feedback we got was, we're really intrigued. And that's a big shift and change. There's also this connection. So kudos to this committee. I think probably Dakota is key in all this, but this planning process has really done a great job bringing our community closer in planning and looking to the future and what does it look like if we do business differently.
Mobility mentors, peers, are they caseworkers? How are they trained? What do they look like? That's the first question. The second question, if you could talk about it, is sustainability after the 3 years. How does this continue?
Yeah, I can start by talking about the mobility mentors. Let's see if I can get back to the management slide here. So we will be housing the mobility mentors, like Richard said, within the core partner agencies. They will be hired within our community. We have 15 total by year 3. The first year we'll have 9, and then we'll hire up to 15 by the 3rd year. And they will be overseen by mobility mentor leads that will make sure that they have all the resources and support that they need to be able to do their jobs well. The case load is pretty low for case management, about 25 families per mobility mentor. And we really want each core partner that is housing these mobility mentors to be helping us with the hiring process. So they will be integral to that process. They will be able to hire the right people for the community that they serve, that have the relationships that they need with the communities that they serve. And so that's something that's really, really important to that aspect of our model. And do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, just a great example of that is when you talk about the different communities and cultures and the cultural barriers that are often existent that different organizations don't understand or relate to in a different community. We have a great example of that. There's an organization in our planning process called Centro Hispano, and that community in particular requires case management, or in this case, mobility mentors that obviously A, can speak the language, but B, understand that culture to assist them in that process. And so we're very intentional about ensuring that we have partners that can represent the communities in which we serve.
KLF, YWCA, Centro, Urban League, are those the core partners, or are those just a subset of them?
Yeah, so those are the core partners. Those were the key partners in the planning process. But when you include the system partners that we looped into this planning process, that's over 45 different nonprofits that were a part of the planning process.
Can you talk about sustainability after the 3 years?
Yeah, I think in that one slide I went through, they signaled me, I saw the clock ticking, but thank you for that question. A lot of this sustainability will be based in the efficiencies that are created through this model. And again, this model is proven, and we know these efficiencies will create. However, I think, our United Way, this is our 100-year anniversary, centennial celebration. This United Way is going through a transformation. The way we do business is fundamentally changing. We're looking at community needs and how do we best invest in community needs, not specific programs or organizations, but how do we change the culture and the environment that best suits our families to move them forward. And this process was an opportunity and a perfect time, as well as that transformational $10 million gift to be able to invest above and beyond our traditional work into this kind of work going forward.
One more. I want to take you back to your feedback loop chart that you had up there, and thank you very much. As you're presenting specifically those in the yellow column that have child and youth services, housing, and on down, I see that as being developed on an urban basis for Knox County. You went on to mention in your presentation that you've got 5, 6 other counties, other communities that are more rural based. What is your, and I guess question number one, is this Knoxville based in its origination, or are you inclusive of those other 6 counties in the plan? And if so, how do you include the other counties in those 10 different items in yellow you have?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So this is exciting. So we talk about these families and that yellow column. So often we want to say this is the one issue families grapple with, when the reality is families are holistic, right? And the problems are holistic. And so every community looks a little differently. So I was up in Claiborne County yesterday, talking to our friends in Claiborne County and talking about this initiative and talking about their greatest challenges. And one of their greatest challenges, and we have a great partnership with our Boys and Girls Club friends who are presenting next. And in that conversation, they said early education, and in particular, accessible, affordable after-school childcare is almost impossible in this small community, and we need that supportive organization to be here and support that. So where in Knoxville, for example, workforce development might be our primary issue, for Claiborne County, it might be child and youth services. So this was broad-based intentionally because we look at a bigger footprint and understand that the needs are different in different communities, and we want to make sure that this journey happens for all families holistically.
I want to just add to, along with that, the Alliance for Better Nonprofits is a nonprofit resource center that serves 25 counties of East Tennessee. We recently merged with the United Way of Greater Knoxville. So we have very strong relationships with the 25 county area nonprofits. There's somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000, I think, if you look at different lists. But we'll leverage those relationships to be able to pinpoint the organizations that we want to partner with to provide additional mobility mentors in years 2 and 3.
What component parts of your model didn't exist within the footprint of the initiative prior to the collaboration?
Did not.
Did not.
Right. So TCRN is an existing software not utilized for the social service sector.
But it existed.
It does exist. System navigators and mobility mentors do not exist currently. The innovation of funding to overcome the benefits cliff does not exist.
Right. And the nature of the question is that it has long been my belief that most of the ingredients that we need are there. Yes. We just haven't aligned and leveraged.
I agree. You know, and it's how we kicked off our presentation. One of the challenges is systemic, right? That we've got the pieces of the puzzle, they're just not put together. So agree with you 100%, Commissioner.
Hey guys, thank you first of all for being here and great work. Talk to us about employer involvement, whether that be in the planning process or, you know, where they fit in the flow chart here, you know, so talk to us a little bit about that.
So glad you asked that, because we did leave that important component out. We've got Maximus selected for that, so we're working with them on actually doing employment services as part of this initiative. So we've got money set aside for them to be able to staff and provide placement services for our families. So we're real excited about that. That is going to be a great addition to this. And, you know, the work doesn't stop. It didn't stop at the end of March. If we get this grant, between that and the time that we really get this thing kicked off, there's still a ton of work left to be done. And we're excited. We're already planning for that. So I'm not saying we're one of the 7, but we are planning for that. And that's just a great way for us to get this, this initiative kicked off and running. So we've already got ideas. We've already got things in place to look at that. One other key thing that I'd just like to make a point to, failure analysis. Looking at our model and looking at the points of failure, we actually analyze that. We look to see where are our risks, what are the things that are going to hold us back from being successful. We had 3Cube do that, and we looked at that, we took the data, and we actually made adjustments and planned accordingly for that. So I want to make that point that we did some good work on that.
I think Commissioner McCord's question was based on some aspects of some of the other program proposals that had to do with, are we working with specific businesses to try to get them to hire the people who come out, not just teaching people how
Very
to find a
good.
job?
Yeah, so when I mentioned that that's work post this, that is really one of the engagement things that we want to do. There are a lot of employers, as you know, in that area that we want to contact and get with and get some buy-in on that part. So we absolutely will do that.
We're also, oh, well.
Thank you all very much.